All right, welcome back to Learning to Live. This is really our first episode. I'm Asher.
I'm Robert.
Last week we kind of got into the intro of what this podcast is, what we're going to talk about, but this is our first episode where we're going to really be breaking down a topic that we've researched that's going to kick off our first challenge. And we hinted at it last week. We talked a little bit about screen time and phone usage and how the negative effect on our life, how we want to fix that. But this week, not only are we going to talk about some research we did, but we're also going to get into the challenge about how we're going to try and solve this problem in our lives in the coming weeks.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I think a lot of people have experienced, especially us, probably less so than, honestly, other people, but probably still to a significant, it affects us.
A significant amount for sure.
I don't think it takes a lot. Based on some of the research we were doing, I don't think it takes that much use to really impact you. Like, there's obviously drastic levels at which you can be impacted by overuse on phones, but it doesn't take much to already make life kind of hard.
Kind of terrible.
Right. It really is.
It really is
that
the damn phone.
That's like, everyone knows.
Yeah.
But I feel like after doing some research, is like, I really know.
Yeah.
And even though some of it, as we'll talk about, it's a new science, phones have been around for that long. And then there's still a lot of debate and argument over how it actually, there's not even an agreement. Can you even be addicted to it? A lot of people say no. A lot of people say yes. It's a very pseudoscience-y realm.
Yeah. And I would say it's an important caveat because definitely some of the things we are going to touch on in this episode are probably going to change over the coming years as more science comes out. We're going to do our best to do high-level overview and not over-index on the things that aren't necessarily cemented in the scientific realm. But also, it's interesting to talk about the science that might be likely happening that we just don't have the sample size to be confident in yet.
Yeah. And we're not doctors or scientists. We are simply
And this is not medical advice.
Right. This is not medical advice. This is us just going on the internet, learning what we can from different people, hearing what they have to say. Some things sound interesting, but maybe aren't that backed in science. And then some things sound sciencey, but aren't very fun to look at. So I think there was a lot of information that we took in. I honestly don't know how much of it is like really true, because it seems like anything that's like, oh yeah, this person's like citing a fact, and then I see someone else saying that's not a fact.
Which is a problem with just information today in general. I think a theme that we noticed in our research, and we'll dig into it, is that somebody will say something about how something works in the brain, and then there was like an adjacent study that kind of points to that trend in the data, but do we know exactly that the phone is causing that? Hard to say. I think what we can be confident in is the negative impact it has on our own lives, the negative impact it has on our friends' lives. And so there's clearly something that's going on.
Right.
And so we can take some, I think, really educated, likely stabs at what's going on, but the science is not 100% confident in this is the direct cause of the misery and pain that we're all feeling.
Right.
But there is misery and pain. It's definitely because of the phones, or in part because of the phones. Obviously, there's other problems, but yeah, let's just get into some of the things we learned.
Yeah. At least some of the research was centered around this idea of like the dopamine mechanism.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people talk
and
about
the trendy dopamine detox.
A lot of people talk about this. And we had previously thought about something like this, but we didn't realize that when people talk about dopamine detox, they meant like you get zero dopamine. We thought of it more of like let's back off of really high dopamine things and instead focus on lower dopamine things, or like dopamine releasing things, which isn't exactly, I guess, what the fad was. But
yeah, the fad was like, we don't want dopamine.
Right.
And it just doesn't work that.
You would not live. But if you haven't heard that dopamine detox isn't, if you don't know what that is, or if you do know what it is and just know, like, it's not real. That's one thing that I think we can all agree on.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that there aren't seriously interesting things happening with dopamine when you use your phone. Right. It's just you don't want to get rid of dopamine. You want to change where the release of dopamine is coming from.
Yeah. So it seems like as we were learning, it seemed like there's a lot of factors that make phones so interesting and so rewarding. Like it wasn't just one thing. It was hitting like multiple layers of our brain as far as like different circuits and different needs, like base needs that were getting targeted. It almost seems like it takes who you are and what you need and everything and satisfies everything just a little bit, but it's like, or it satisfies it enough with having such a low effort to get it that you just kind of like end up in this numb kind of like not full state.
Right.
What you really need is still kind of in the background and your emotions are still kind of in the background, but everything's just kind of slowly getting hijacked and like filled with this kind of this not fully satiating thing that your phone does. And it's not just your phone, it's also what's on your phone.
Mm-hmm. I think if we, like you were talking about, if we narrow in on the reward mechanism, basically, I think consensus is our brains evolved to reward behaviors that increase the chance of survival. And one thing the phone does is mimic behaviors that increase the chance of survival, but they don't actually. You know, this comes from learning something new or something that's unpredictable. Paying attention to unpredictable things would increase your chance of survival. Or learning something new would increase your chance of survival. Or community would increase your chance of survival. And like likes on social media. And like so
having a sense of control and there's like plenty of things.
There's a lot of things. Yeah. So when you're engaging these behaviors, you get a big hit to your reward center. And that basically says this is a good behavior. And on top of that, the phone is so easy to use that it's a low effort, high reward. So it's like, why would I do anything else if I'm getting the most bang for my buck from my phone? But obviously we're not actually getting any value from our phone, or we are getting some, but little in comparison to what it detracts. And so then what happens is your brain rewards that mechanism and it says it makes you crave it even more. And when it knows it can get the reward out of being on your phone, when you do something that would be hard but really good for you, so why are we doing this? This is a waste of time pretty much. Let's do the other thing that's high reward, low effort. And so then the hard thing becomes way more difficult.
Yeah, and it seems like it can happen very quickly.
Yeah.
I think for me, in my experience, I can spend 5 to 10 minutes on my phone and then immediately life seems harder.
100%.
It's so quick that you just get that huge hit and it's like this such an easy comfort zone thing. And then as soon as you transition out of it, it's like, whoa. And it takes some time. It takes some time to like readjust. I have to like, I've tried to like pay attention to this because I think we also mentioned this in the last episode, but talking about our like kind of quitting our phones for briefly in the past, just more or less quitting just to see what would happen. And we both kind of had this kind of profound experience of like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a massive change.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we talk about our own experience, this is also the realm of, this is a sample size of 2. We don't know if the science is there to say, oh, your dopamine gets hijacked that quickly. But we know this is happening and this is what it feels like. Yeah. For sure. I mean, I've had days where I've spent the whole day on my phone and it's like, I'll try to do something like study or get an important thing I'm trying to get done. And I just keep wanting to get back on my phone. And it feels like I've had days where I've stared at a wall for like 30 minutes to just try and like get back.
Right.
Well, that was probably actually more helpful than I thought it was.
Right. I felt like if I'm tired, it's especially hard. If and I think that comes from a big part is the escapism aspect of the phone and the ability to kind of numb your emotions or not even think about them and just be completely wrapped up in something else. So anytime I was really tired, hopping on my phone would be so easy. I'd spend hours and hours on my phone or even some other type of entertainment digitally. Yeah. But typically my phone, it would be one of those things where all of a sudden it's like, I know I need to eat, but I wouldn't. I would wait until I'm like starving and I'm like, I haven't eaten in the last 18 hours because I've been on my phone this entire time. And it's crazy.
It's crazy
how deep you can get into it.
Yeah.
And how it's so easy.
And then it's like, and like we said, it's not just the dopamine because another thing is, if you feel like you're checking off the boxes to the things like you mentioned, like control or community, the other drives, like, and this is related to dopamine, obviously, but just your general motivation to attain those things in real life goes down. And another aspect that we learned about was this is true for like emotional escapism as well, because I think we both experienced this. You're having a bad day, you get on Instagram Reels, and you can just check out, right? Yeah. Throw on a Netflix show, you can just check out. And then what happens is typically those bad emotions that might motivate you to be like, okay, I need to get active or I need to hang out with some friends. You just numb those. And so now you're not having the driving emotion that would get you to fix whatever problem is actually occurring. So it feels like it's getting better, but really it's just numbing kind of the pain. We've all been there. I've been there a lot where it's just, I feel like in my head, the rational excuse is, well, I'm just recharging. I'm kind of relaxing, but I'm just really just numbing everything. And then everything else becomes harder.
Yeah, it seems like there's a big difference between relaxing and being on your phone. Like the actual recharging and your brain's processing doesn't happen when you're on your phone. It's like more input. It's more and more input. So your brain is trying to keep up with like 1,000 things that you're shoving into it. It's like you're shoving every 10 seconds a completely new thing or experience into your head over and over and over again. So you're not relaxing or recharging. If anything, your brain's getting so cluttered and confused.
Yeah.
And it's like getting overdriven. So it's a really backwards way of thinking that I definitely was like that until we kind of looked more into the kind of focus and what taking a break really looks like. And we just sit there and kind of let your thoughts think the difference that can cause. But I do think there's a lot of interesting ideas around escapism. It's so interesting to talk about the benefit of negative emotions because sometimes they're like positive because they'll drive you to do something to make change. But then a lot of times they're like crippling.
They're really negative.
And so I feel like there's such an interesting intangible, like it's got this very challenging thing to discuss. But I do find it fascinating if along our journey through this podcast, we almost look into something like how to translate negative emotions or how to like manage, because I'm sure that'll come up because that's important. Yeah. But it's like a good thing. And I think us and others have a very bad relationship with negative emotions because it's kind of like
it's negative emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
It sucks. It hurts and it sucks. And a lot of times we mislabel things, especially I think now because it's so hard to put labels on things because you're on your phone all the time. It's like, I feel bad. I don't really know why. Yeah. It's like the self-awareness is out the window. Yeah. None of us know. Yeah. It's crazy. Our brains can't process and figure things out. So it's very hard to know and to feel like I know why I feel bad.
Yeah, that introspection. It's almost like it's a skill almost that when you're kind of numb to everything, you actually get worse at. Checking in with yourself, I mean, like that kind of emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, I think is very exploited by our phones because the worse you get at it, the more overwhelming dealing with those emotions are. And so the more you just want to check out.
Yeah.
And that, again, leads you to be on your phone more.
Right.
And so it's like, I think one thing we ran into with the research that we were doing is everything was kind of a spiral on itself. Like if you think about the dopamine, you get a big dopamine hit from your phone, which makes you want to crave being on your phone more, which makes you go on your phone more, which makes you feel like you need to be on your phone more to get the equivalent hit. And it gets worse and worse and worse. Not only is it preying, it's just getting you hooked initially, but then the things that you would need to get unhooked, it is dismantling while you're on your phone. And that's why it's such kind of like a scary mechanism and why so many people say, including us, I want to get off my phone, but untangling what that actually is from a behavioral standpoint is way harder than it sounds.
Yeah, it's one of those things that definitely acts as that negative feedback loop that's kind of like or positive feedback loop almost. Yeah. And it comes off as like a very addictive behavior. Now, whether or not it's classically an addiction, medically addiction, is honestly besides the point because
it's clearly having a negative impact on our lives.
At some level, you can say, you know what? A lot of people, including us, have wanted to get off our phones more and haven't because we can't. Or because we are like, I would rather take the loss and just do this behavior. Or sometimes it's like mechanical. You don't even think about it. You're just boom on your phone again. Then it's like, whoa, I didn't mean for that to happen. It doesn't really matter what the exact classification is because it's a problem.
Of course.
And it's a challenging problem because it hijacks the thing that makes us do things. It's crazy how doing this research is just kind of like looking at the world like, man, it's crazy depressing. How many people do not have our best interests in mind.
Yep.
And
I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, it's just like you look out into the world and you're like, most things are designed to exploit me is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And
it's just you are the consumer.
Yeah, you're the consumer.
And we will make you
and we'll get all the money we can off of you.
Right.
And so I think the positive there is it feels like, and maybe it's just the circles that we're researching into, but it feels like there's this growing push to back away from kind of the path we're headed down. And so hopefully the issue is that there's so much money going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And I think our goal here is to, at least for ourselves, start to learn how we can redesign our environment so that we can perform and just live our better lives, right? We're learning to live. That's the name of the podcast. And then hopefully help others. But, you know, when we started the research for the phones, I had this preconceived notion of just like dopamine. There's something to do with dopamine. And there is a lot to do with dopamine. But like you said, there's a lot of other layers as well. Another path that we went down was the effect it has on our prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex has a big role in attention and impulse control. And being on your phone definitely correlates with a lack of both, pretty much. It basically makes your prefrontal cortex function worse, is my understanding, right? And again, this is science where it's like there hasn't necessarily been direct studies showing conclusively everything, but this is really how the data is trending, and likely as more and more studies come up, people are getting more and more confident in this. It could change. We could learn new things, but it makes sense on paper because if you're ever on your phone and then you try and do a hard task, it's like your attention is so fractured, and your ability to then resist other things, like resist eating bad food or resist getting on your phone more, actually gets worse from an impulse control standpoint.
Yeah. I read a little bit about this in a paper that was talking about how mindfulness kind of the actual brain circuitry. And I don't want to get too scientific because I don't want to be wrong about this, but it seems like from what I understand, there's kind of a switch between your executive function and then your kind of like wandering mind. I believe it's called the insula. And it kind of is like it requires energy to actually keep you in the executive function. And there's benefits to sometimes being in the wandering mind, but there's like a big, that's kind of where you're like in the distracted state or the focused state. Mindfulness practices are very good at training and like optimizing the amount of energy that it takes to keep you in that zone. And now I didn't talk a lot about phones, but just from the other research we're doing, I imagine it just completely hurts. And again, I didn't read this specifically, but it seems like it's the kind of like leading to the more distractive things. It's like it's like the opposite. Like we're spending way more time in the off switch. It's again that positive feedback loop where it's harder to not be as distracted. What do you do when you're distracted or you can't really focus or you feel kind of bad? You know, not being feeling distracted is not a fun feeling sometimes. So you just get on your phone because then boom, that sucks your attention. It's very stimulating. Got a lot of lights and movement going on in there. It's crazy how well it works at doing what it does, which is keep you on it. But another thing that I think is interesting, I almost feel that there's been times where I've like really indulged, like overindulged on like video games or being on my phone or something. And it gets to a point where I'm like, I need to stop. Like it just gets to a point where it's so unsatisfying. And I'm like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't need this anymore. And I would get off. And then I wouldn't really want to go back on for a while, like a couple weeks almost. It almost feels like we build a tolerance to it, but then it's almost specific to the activity, because then going outside seems more interesting. Even though that should theoretically, if we had built like a crazy dopamine tolerance, then everything should feel impossible. But it's instead like, I just don't want to do this thing anymore. And I would rather go for a walk or go on a run or something, which I think is interesting because I don't really feel like we came across anything that talked about that too much. And I don't know. I have you experienced anything like that before?
For sure. I think I would, especially with video games, not so much with my phone, with like scrolling on Instagram or something. To me, that always just, no matter the day, feels like it can hook me. But for video games, there's a peak of the fulfillment I felt like I would get from it. And then it was like, I need to shut this off, because I just no longer was enjoying it. I think some preliminary thoughts might be that as you get dopamine from an activity, if you're getting it in kind of these spiking ways, and we see this with addiction, to get the same hit takes more of the activity. And I don't know 100% if the evidence is there on the phones, but it feels like it is, because after doing, like you said, indulging, playing a video game for an hour one day, then 2 hours the next day, then 3 hours the day after that, then 4 hours after that, by hour 5 or 6 or whatever, you get to this point where it's like, I'm just not getting the hit. Part of the reason why some people don't quit is because dopamine isn't just pleasure in the brain. It's the reward mechanism. It's the reinforcement mechanism.
Yeah. So it makes you want to come back and do it
sometimes
again.
you come back even when it's not pleasurable at all. And that's where it's like you said, it can go down that loop. But yeah, occasionally it's like you just break out of the cycle. I almost think that like short form content almost broke that, where it's like companies have gotten better and better at making sure you don't get out of the cycle.
Yeah.
And now people aren't stopping scrolling after like 2 hours, maybe somebody puts their phone down. They're like, I got to do something else, but they're on it the next day. I'm on it the next day. Yeah. I mean, we were looking at our screen time earlier, and I think past couple of weeks I've been on it 4 hours a day on my phone. I know I'm watching YouTube on my computer. Sometimes I'll like pull up a random game on my computer and just like mess around for like 45 minutes, just wasting time, like listening to a podcast or something. Just like the stimulation. We saw a stat when we were researching that people are on their phones currently 4 hours and 37 minutes a day on average. I did like the math on that. I was like, okay, assume you're awake 16 hours a day. It's like 2.8 years of the next 10 years of your life is on your phone. I have friends, I've had weeks and months where I'm averaging 6 hours a day. That's like 4 years of the next 10 years of your waking life that you're just on your phone. And
it's like, it's pretty much half of your free time. If you're working 8 hours, then
if you're eating,
it's over
like
half.
when you're eating, like then you have to spend some time eating food. Like
it almost seems like at 4.5 hours, it's almost like it's just what you do when you're not working.
It's what you do when you're not working
or eating.
And this is
no, people are definitely eating on their phones.
True, but like this is what it's insane how extreme it is. And going back to our personal experience, countless times I've downloaded screen time apps. Countless times I've tried to set just like the screen time limits that are built into Apple, and I've never had success with it. This is why we're trying to figure this out and trying to see what the effect has on us. Because it's like, when you think about the aggregate of what that means, we talk about all the things that are happening in your brain that make you focus worse, you feel worse, but just purely on a time spent versus doing something else, that alone is enough for me to feel like, wow, that is terrible.
Yeah.
Even if it had no negative impacts and it was just time that I wasn't using productively, that would be like, man, that feels pretty bad. Especially
because whenever you even do spend that amount of time, someone comes up and asks you, what was the last thing you saw? What was something that you saw? No clue. You're like, I don't know. Yeah. I might as well have been asleep, but at least I felt good, which is a very interesting thing. And I think there's another big drawback. I feel like I've had a lot of problems in the past with more like a big binging behavior with things, especially with video games. This is, I think, a problem that I just experience on multiple fronts, where it's like I'm good without things like on these playing video games or something. But when it's in front of me, or like with food, when it's in front of me, it's hard to stop. Like I'll play the video game all the time. Like whenever I go back throughout college, because I didn't bring my computer, thank God, because I just wouldn't play video games until one summer. I was like, you know what, I think I'll need my PC this semester. Brought it up, and then I just was like on it all the time, and I was like, I need to send it home.
You know, that goes to we talk a lot about environment, where it's like almost to the point of it's less about you and more about just the environment you're in.
Right.
If it's not in front of you, you do okay. And if it's in front of you, you really struggle. And I think we need to get used to the idea that we need to put in the work to build our environment. Stop just thinking that your willpower alone is going to be the thing that gets you there. Some people it will, but it's like if you continuously recognize that when the PC's in front of you, you waste hours every day, then it's like, let's just fix the environment instead of trying to muscle through the temptation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it definitely has there's differences across people. So, you know, I think that's a challenging thing to face as someone who maybe falls into the more of a indulgence category of like, for me, if it's there, like I'll do it. Like I'll want to do it and I'll do it more.
Let me ask you this. When you're in those periods of time, what does it feel like? Are you thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could stop? Or are you like coming up with justifications? This is just good, I'm just rolling with it, I'm just binging, I know I'm going to stop at some point because you've recognized this behavior pattern? Like what is the internal dialogue?
When I'd be at home and in that environment, it'd definitely be like, I would just look forward to it. And I would play games for hours and hours. And then the next day I would just kind of like be there, but I'd kind of be in that low kind of boredom state that you kind of get from having such a high stimulus activity that you just experience, and then it's kind of everything else kind of feels until all of a sudden I'd get back on, and then it'd be like, okay. So it'd kind of have a whiplash period where after I'd leave, there'd be a little bit of time to kind of reset. But I feel like at some points I'd be like, this is definitely a problem. And I would think that, and then shortly afterwards want to do it again. So it's like, it's purely like I would want to do it. It's not, a lot of times it's not like, man, God, here I go again. Like, can't stop myself from doing this. It'd be like, I want to play this game right now. Or when, you know, I definitely experienced this with eating, where it's like, if there's food in front of me, it's hard to not eat everything in front of me. Like, I literally, it's crazy because I'm a big guy who has a big stomach, I guess, and I can eat a lot of food. So when there's serving sizes and there's food, it's hard for me to stop. Like, that's something I've really had to try to work on, to be like, I need to not do that. And that's one thing where it's like, yeah, the environment, you know, if I make my own food here and I have a plan and I put the food in front of me, I'll eat what's in front of me, but I just know that I'm eating what I should be eating. Right. Versus if I go to like restaurants and other things, it gets so unpredictable. But that's a topic for another day as far as the food goes. But for the phone and all this, it's like, if I just delete Instagram, I'm not on it. And I don't want to go on it. But if it's on my phone, I'm on it. And it's hard because for me, and I think there's a lot of other people like me, but there's a lot of other people who maybe don't experience it to that level, like you, for instance, especially with the eating thing, where it's like, we've talked about this a lot lately, where it's kind of like you are in the camp of people who struggle to overeat, which is like a blessing and a curse depending on what your goals are. Right. But for someone like me, it's like, man, like that sucks to see, because it's like, if I could only do, and it almost feels like a willpower thing. And so I think for a lot of people like me, when it comes to like something like the binging screen time and stuff, and you see that, and you see other people have computers in their rooms and they don't play video games all the time. So it's like a frustrating, like, man, if only I could do that. Well, this gets into a very bad mental state.
This touches on actually two interesting topics. I think first, on the willpower front, I'm one of those people who definitely in the minority of, when it comes to eating, I get full and I just don't want to eat more. And it might seem like, man, if I had his willpower to not overeat, he's just had, but it's like, that's not a willpower thing for me at all. Right. I just don't have the want. But it gets into the comparison, which is just another crazy facet of our phone use.
Right.
Which is we're constantly being compared to other people. Like you go on your feed. I know we've been going to the gym a lot and talking about like splits and how we want to work out recently. And it's something we're going to explore on the podcast. But now when I go on to like YouTube Shorts, I see so many gym videos and it's like just jacked guy after jacked guy doing like some crazy calisthenic push-up handstand. I'm like, does everyone look like this but me? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so
the only problem is we go to an apartment and it's just full of a bunch of jack dudes.
Anyways, we have an apartment gym and it's like, man, these guys are huge. Their biceps are the size of my quads. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, but it's a little. So maybe everyone is just freaks of nature.
But it does go to that point of like, your phones are constantly in just how social media works. We're posting when we look the best. I mean, we've talked about this. We want to be as honest and authentic as we can on this podcast. We're still going to try and look our best on camera.
Right.
And it's like, that's human nature for sure. But social media takes it to an extreme where you only see the best.
And a lot of times it's not even real. Like that. And that's a even worse thing.
Lighting, Photoshop, whatever it is.
And you also don't even know because a lot of times, a lot of the people we probably see online are either they're not natural,
right,
or they are, but they've like spent their whole you don't get the whole story. You just kind of get this, wow, this person can do something that you can't.
Yeah. And you don't see the people who aren't like that because they're not the ones posting.
Right.
Because they're like us feeling bad about ourselves. Right. And it's like
right.
But it's like it goes into, so it's like that comparison. It's just when you said like looking at somebody else, man, if I had that willpower, it makes you think of that.
Speaking of content, the progression of what's on the internet, and especially in the circle of people who are on the internet all the time, like, man, my reels are terrible. And like the things I see on there, like I've deleted Instagram multiple times just because I've seen something and then I immediately delete it. I would watch a reel and I'm like, that is the worst thing I have ever seen. And I would just delete the app because I'm like, I shouldn't see that. Like,
yeah,
that's like it's one of those things where it's like, I have watched the show The Boys and I did like it. So, you know, I can only speak so much because that has some of the worst things that I've ever seen.
Right.
But there's a level at which that's fake. And a lot of things on Instagram is real, where it's like I'm
desensitized.
Seeing, and it completely desensitized. So like the content itself, the addictive content that you're like, I'm glued to my phone, just inputting this in my head, and it's all this stuff that's real but not real in my life. It's not, you know, it's not important for me to see. It just kind of makes my life worse, and it makes me just feel worse. And I can't stop being on it and like looking at. I don't even want to say some of the things. I mean,
it's terrible. It's awful, actually terrible. And I mean,
it's so normalized. And
it's so,
I'll just send it to all my friends and they'll just send it back to me later. And it's like, what am I doing?
Human brains are not meant for that. No. That's not how we were designed.
And this isn't the next evolution.
No.
This is
and it goes back to like, we're living in a world now that is exploiting mechanisms that developed for completely different purposes. And, you know, I talked briefly about impulse control and you talked about like that willpower thing. I mean, I've had moments, like some of my low moments are I delete Instagram because I'm spending too much time on Instagram Reels. So then I find myself on Snapchat and I'm on like Snapchat Spotlight.
Yeah, anytime we're on Snapchat Spotlight.
And I'm like, oh
you're
my
like,
gosh.
What are you
so
doing?
I delete Snapchat.
That was me.
Right? I delete Snapchat and then I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube Shorts and I'm like, okay, I delete YouTube. And then I'll like go to my Safari web browser and type in YouTube and go to YouTube Shorts on a not logged in YouTube page. So I'm getting just like random like brain rot and I don't like any of it. And I'm still scrolling. And I'm like, wow, this is terrible. And recently I found out that LinkedIn has like short form content.
ESPN does too now.
What is going on? Yeah. And the worst part is I'm scrolling on it.
Yeah. I only know that because I've scrolled on ESPN Verts looking at just endless clips of women's basketball. And I'm like, I don't watch women's basketball. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah. How did I get
How
here?
did I get here? Like,
Yeah.
get off. What?
Yeah.
Just do
I've
anything else.
watched movies in clips.
Right.
Like, have you ever done that
Yeah.
where it's like you just see an opening scene to a movie and it's like you don't know what's going on, and so you scroll to the next one and then like part 2 comes up. I'm like watching it semi out of order.
Yeah.
It's like
I haven't seen Breaking Bad, but I think I could tell you most of what happens in that show because of YouTube Shorts.
it's so bad. It's horrendous. So, I mean, so we've hit on a bunch of what makes this really bad.
But we didn't hit on one thing.
Okay. Yeah.
That I feel like is important.
Go for it.
Sleep.
Yeah.
And this has there's a couple big impacts on sleep. So one, just the act of actually being on your phone, the lighting of it, everything kind of is very disruptive to our circadian rhythm. So we don't fall asleep as good as we should at night. It can delay your sleep.
Another one where the science, I know on blue light, at first everyone is freaking out. Now some people are like,
like it's
maybe it's not that big a deal. There's stuff going on. We're not going to make big claims of this is this, but there's stuff
there's
that's
clearly something
disruption.
that's and I think it could very well just be like a stimulation and a thought and like too much input or something. Like I don't really know what it is. But there's obviously something about being on your phone that makes it hard to fall asleep. And the other thing, which is worse, is if it happens to you, is like you just delay your bedtime.
Yeah, you just stay up.
Because you're on your phone.
You just stay up.
That's the best way it keeps you awake, you're just on it.
Watching a YouTube video the other night, and I got in bed at like 10 p.m., feeling good. I was like, I'll just watch a quick video, go to sleep. I went to sleep at like 1:30 in the morning. And it was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, that was good. I clicked onto the next video and then, it's auto playing onto the third video. And it's like.
Right. I've had some bad nights before, man. I've had some nights where it's like, open up YouTube and like maybe put something on and I would just be so wired that I would like watch it. And then I would end up clicking something else and it'd be like 5 a.m. and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
It'd be 6 sometimes. And like, what am I doing? Like the sun is rising and I've just been on like my laptop and been on social media or been on my phone. And I'm like, this is it's one of those things where it's so good at keeping you awake too. Because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I'll just put this on and go to sleep. And then I just watch the whole thing.
Yeah. And it's easy to joke about. And we're laughing because it's ridiculous how bad it gets. But like that is
happening.
Seriously disruptive to your ability to just be the person you want to be. And you mentioned it earlier. I think we're lucky enough where we've either been busy enough or whatever our circumstances have been that it hasn't been as bad for us as it has for many people. And so like it gets to the point of you can't do anything for some people. Yeah. And I've had that feeling in almost micro versions. I won't pretend to say that I've experienced anything like almost like a chronic level of just inability to do anything. But the fact that even we experience how easy it is to slip into those traps, it's like, man, it's rough. And to list off a few other things that we didn't touch on as much, it's like, anonymity online. Just there's so many toxic places you can find yourself in where you end up having these conversations. You don't even know if you're talking to a real person, Yeah. There's like, we talked about comparison. We talked about just like the fuel of getting likes on social media
and also like the simulated social connection.
So like you're fixing the feeling of feeling lonely, but you're not really addressing it. There's like the list goes on and on and on. And on a scientific, bringing it back to the science a little, we said this with the dopamine. It's not only that you get this hit from being on your phone. The things that are good for you actually are becoming harder. And there's some science that, points to maybe there's some like downregulation of the receptors for dopamine that we looked into. We didn't find like any studies that were like 100% it's this, but like there's starting to be science that points to like, oh, like things are changing in your brain potentially. Mm-hmm. And I think as we keep doing the podcast, we're going to keep researching topics and coming back to them and seeing what else there is to learn and hopefully talking to people who know more about this than we do. But like, it is having just drastic effects on our generation. Our generation feels like the first generation that's really just grown up in this and feeling it too. And just, we don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. And this is a problem I would love to be able to solve for ourselves and others. And I think it's funny because a couple months ago when we stopped being on our phones, I don't think we'd be sitting here recording this episode if we hadn't done that. Like when we decided to do that, the amount of productivity that we experienced was like unprecedented, at least in this 100%. In my life. I was like, wow. Yeah. It's when I just take away, it's just the environment. It's like, okay. So, it wasn't me. It wasn't that I was like, I just didn't have the willpower to sit down and do work. It was like, I was being so caught up in something else that as soon as I removed the phone, the games, as soon as I just didn't have that anymore, I just wanted to do other things. And it doesn't seem like it can be real when you're in that place. Mm-hmm. And it almost doesn't feel like now, like looking back on it, that you can almost get into that. And we're kind of at a midway where it's not great, but it's a lot better than it was.
Yeah. And that brings us to the challenge that we're about to embark on. Because like you said about, it was a couple months ago, we got off our phones and we definitely noticed positive boosts, but it didn't last long, especially because we weren't really holding ourselves accountable. And so now it's like, we want to take it to the absolute next level. And we want to report back, does this have the impact that we think it will? I mean, we've defined this problem. We did the research. Yeah, it's as bad as we thought. It's worse. It's definitely, I mean, I'll say for me, going into researching how phones are destroying our brains, worse than what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you definitely sit down and you're like, wow, this is the perfect machine to just ruin
done it.
Us. They did it. They did
it. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You ruined the world.
Right.
So, and let me put in a small caveat because we've been destroying phones. There are great uses for phones.
Right.
It is not solely the phone that is necessarily the problem. It's the way it's designed, like communicating with loved ones and GPS and camera. Like there's some awesome things that phones do. It's amazing. But the purpose of the phone as we know it is to exploit and get us to use it as much as possible. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny, again, sitting here talking about this and thinking of someone watching some clip of this that we're going to post on Instagram Reels. And it feels
not
hypocritical, but also if someone watches this on Instagram and then takes the time to come and check out what we're doing here,
hopefully they say, man, I really got to get off my phone.
Thing. I think we're throwing it's not a reflection that we are spending all our time on Instagram. Like we're using our resources because the phones are great resources. Yeah. But there is a level at which it's hard to balance, especially I think you just have to know the kind of person you are. So like for me, I don't think there's a balance. It's just I have to have no access. There's some people who can probably find a healthy balance. But I'm excited for this where we do absolutely nothing as far as, well, we're not doing absolutely nothing. Like we're going to have our phones.
Yeah, let's define the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been hinting at getting off our phones, but we are cutting it out completely.
No phones.
Get
rid of the phones.
Get rid of the phones. At this point, we want to experience the full potential benefits of just not being on our phones at all.
Yeah.
So what does it look like?
Well, we're going to be on our phones. But
very little.
Very little. So before 9 a.m., no phones. Now we get up at 6:30, so that's a good like 2.5 hours of no phones.
Yes.
And then after 6 p.m., no phones.
Zero.
In a different room or in a box or something. If an important call comes through, yeah, we can take a call. This isn't supposed to be make our life stupid hard challenge. This is a let's not be on our phones.
Yes. And from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., only essential phone use. So that looks like maps. That looks like a text message here or there. You know, I work a job. You're going to be on campus. Like there's going to be minimal phone usage throughout the day, but only for essential purposes. And every week we're going to show you exactly what our screen time was. And this also includes no YouTube on the TV, no Netflix, no computer usage for entertainment, none of that. No video games, anything.
Yeah, there'll be some times where it's like an important social event centered around a sports
Super Bowl is coming up.
Right. So life comes first.
I think
this is not something where on our own, and especially not at our apartment, none of that. What do you think it's going to be some of the bigger challenges within this challenge?
I mean, I use my phone a lot right now. So I think that's going to be the bigger challenge. I think the biggest things I'm looking forward to is I want to see an improvement in focus. I want the hard things in my life to feel a lot easier. And I'm really hoping, based on all the research we've done, that is what's going to happen. But it's probably not going to happen all at once. There's going to be a pain period of feeling really bad, kind of feeling fidgety, wanting to be on my phone. I think, in the thing that makes this a little easier is that we're excited for it. We kind of want the challenge of it all. So hopefully that makes it a little bit better because we're looking for the positive results as opposed to just trying to get off our phone for no worthwhile reason. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, a challenge about this is going to be actually how do we communicate how it's going and how do we measure it? Yeah.
So I think we're going to be, obviously we can have our screen time from our phones, and then it won't be as easy to monitor laptop time because obviously we spend a lot of time on our laptops for professional reasons, but there's not a great way, at least that we found, to be able to just completely monitor unless we're literally going over each other's history.
Yeah.
But I think we'll be okay to manage that. But we'll be reflecting on our kind of 3 times a day, maybe more, just going over kind of our motivation, mood, focus levels, just kind of documenting our experience that way.
And the goal of that, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be our subjective experience that we're going to be reporting on. This might be different if you try the same thing. So take our results with a grain of salt. We recognize we're probably going to be biased towards the positive. We're excited to do this. We're going to be as objective as we possibly can, but it's also a sample size of 2. And there's so many other variables in life. That being said, we're going to try and report as best we can. We're going to do that a week from now, and then we're going to do that a month from now. And then hopefully this is an indefinite challenge that we actually take with us going forward, and we can keep coming back to how this is impacting our lives.
Yeah. And I'm not entirely sure it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows because I do recall from a couple months ago, a lot of wall staring, a lot of time where we talked about this, about how the reward circuitry and everything kind of gets to a point where if you're on your phone too much, then doing anything else, you don't want to do it. And so when we removed the phones a couple months ago, I just didn't want to do anything. And it was what I would have wanted to do is get on my phone, but it was like, no phone. So I just sit there and I'll just sit down on the couch, look at the wall. Being on our phones, this isn't something you can just stop for a week or a couple weeks and then you get back on and you're like, you have a better relationship with it. It's always going to be bad if you're on it. So we want to avoid that, but we want to learn how to do it sustainably. So for most of these challenges that we're going to do, we're probably going to start extreme, cut them back a little bit, and then see how we can implement in our lives. And with this one, I think hopefully it can stay pretty extreme.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, there's no such thing as a dopamine cleanse. There's also no such thing as doing a healthy behavior for a limited amount of time and then that healthy behavior having a forever impact. It just doesn't work that way. And I think we've fallen victim to that in the past. I've done health challenges before, and at the end of the day, I've never felt like I've made sustainable, real change on a long-term level. So yeah, we're going to start extreme. We're going to cut it out entirely. And then we're going to see, can we find the tools to make sure that this sticks into our lives in a meaningful way? And in a way, like you said, we don't want this to be the make life hard challenge. Phones are great for a lot of reasons. And so part of this is finding, okay, if you're going to cut out your phone, what's the best way to do it and what allows you to get what you need to do done without losing the convenience of the technology that we have that does make a lot of things really convenient.
Yeah.
And I think another aspect is as we go through the challenge, hopefully we iterate on some of the extracurricular activities we're doing, whether that's, hours of silence or staring at a wall or whatever. Like, we want to experiment with what you can replace phones with. But the good thing is, at a bare minimum, this is not about maximizing our productivity. It's just minimizing our phone use. So if we want to do nothing, we can. Don't get on the phone, because at that point, hopefully starting something else will be easier.
Yeah. So where does that leave us with next week?
Yeah. So next week, we're going to come back, check in. You'll see our screen times. You'll see all the numbers, what the apps were, and then talk about, okay, what does this look like going forward? Should you do this? What might you expect? And we're going to dive into some of the research. I know we've been preparing we're looking into an interesting book on a related topic to the phone use and how a similar thing can affect your life. And so we're going to dive into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot to look forward to.
For sure.
Until then, we will not be on our phones.
Yep. Starting at midnight.
Yeah. Not right now, though.
Not right now.
Yeah, though.
Now it's time for Instagram Reels. No.
I actually already deleted it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I still have a few of the apps. So the purge is coming.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
During the week, and then also next week when we sit back down and get this next episode out.
All right. Let's get after it.